Service tech at a Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center.
I need help.
They always do.
I'm overdue for an oil change.
No problem.
Tire rotation?
Got it.
Top off the fluid?
Yep.
Check the battery and filters?
Roger.
The sprocket lockets?
No such thing.
Seeing if you're listening.
I haven't stopped.
Today's Saturday, and I don't have an appointment.
Now you do.
Cool.
Very cool.
No appointment necessary. Weekend hours and trained techs ready to give your car the works. Quick Lane is ready to serve. Visit quicklane.com.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Ben Reichley.
Greetings and welcome on board WKOK's live telephone talk show. It is entitled On the Mark. I am Mark Lawrence, host of the show. Very glad to see all of you on the radio. It is the 13th day of June. We're almost halfway through the month of June. What is wrong with the world that time can go that fast? 13th day of June, of course, considered bad luck for many folks. Full moon last night and tonight, so make sure you go out and enjoy the good luck that the full moon brings this evening. There is an ISS flyover at some point tonight, so hopefully we'll have skies clear enough to see that.
And the possibility of a solar flare issue, too, Mark.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we won't have an issue, but hopefully we'll have something visible.
Something that happened on Tuesday, actually, that caused a little bit of disruption early in the morning between 6 and 9 to some communications, could again cause an issue today.
All right, so watch out for static on the satellites and pixelization of your favorite TV show, things along that line. Our webcam is up and running. It is at WKOK.com. See, you simply go to WKOK.com, click on the little red triangle, and you can watch our On the Mark program. Kevin put up some nicer lights in here, so it should look a little warmer in here, so we appreciate that. Thank you, Kevin. Looks like a TV studio in here, but we're here. We aim to please, so the webcam is more Illuminati than ever, so thank you. On the Mark brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and Route 1115, Hummel's Wharf. They invite you to know that they sell Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln cars and trucks. They are also a premier service provider for every single type of car and truck made in the world. They also take care of all sizes of trucks. That means great big 18-wheelers. They got tow trucks that look more like a crane than a tow truck, and they got little tiny tow trucks that can roll your smart car onto the back of the vehicle, and then they'll fix it. And they would just love to help you out. SunburyMotors.com is their main website. Lenape Solar email in basket open. You simply email on the market at WKOK.com, and in many cases we read your email on the radio. Lenape Solar is located at 140 South of 2nd Street, Sunbury. Find them on the web at LenapeSolar.com. Call them telephonically, 570-286-1496. Make sure you check them out because they can help you set up an HVAC system that will help your home get heating and cooling in the winter and summer, depending upon which is the appropriate activity at that time, very efficiently with ductless heating and ventilating systems. They put a small heat pump device outside, a little tiny heat exchanger inside, and just a little pipe connects them, and they can make sure that you're in the right century when it comes to HVAC. LenapeSolar.com. Groninger Insurance toll-free line is open. You simply email you simply call 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. Groninger Insurance Agency, Front and Duke Streets, Northumberland. Today's the day they're open from 9 to 4:30, and then tomorrow by appointment, and the rest of the week 9 to 5. Find them on the web at Groningerinsurance.com. They have a question they always ask folks, and we have a very smart man with us today, well, two of them, but we'll ask one of them if he knows. What's the question they ask at Groninger Insurance? You've heard this a couple times. Do you know if your insurance is the right price? Come on, work with me here, Fred.
Well, I tell you what, I know they provide a good service, and however, they're not my insurance agent.
Oh, okay. Well, then that question's perfect for you, because that precedes a second opinion where they find out if your insurance is at precisely the exact right price. Auto, home, and business insurance, they give you a second opinion. They look at your existing insurance and they say, hey, guess what? We can save you $1. And go to Groningerinsurance.com if you want to set that up. The Groninger boys would just love to see a guy who wears a necktie all the time in the office. They probably do, too.
I don't wear a necktie all the time in the office. However, I knew I was going to be on the radio, and I felt that I should address appropriately.
Right,
for
and I
the
already
show.
took your picture once. I'm going to do it again while you're talking. So
Make sure you get a nice picture, though.
we'll try. Well, with Kevin's new lights, this is going to help us out. Kevin Hur, greatest engineer in the entire universe. He may be the greatest engineer in several universes, but the research is not in on that yet, so we'll just have to settle for that. He just filled an entire warehouse with more awards that he brought back from the Associated Press contest. So Kevin Hur is our engineer. And the single most conservative on the other side of the table is back after a 2-week hiatus. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Ben Reichley is here, Republican committee person, a businessman by trade, landlord by occasional irritation, and let's see, father, and all kinds of good things. So welcome back, buddy.
And I might add, one heck of a good guy.
He is a good guy, and he's an American first, he'll tell you, given the opportunity to introduce himself.
Yeah, good travels, good business, and one stop with a little business tied into a very historic. People get up to Boston, do try to get over the JFK Library. Very eye-opening. You see some very interesting pictures and documents that you sometimes don't hear about. And again, it's a beautiful setting on the bay behind Boston, and again, very interesting. And depending on the age of the people you're with is how long you will stay at certain displays, because again, we had some younger folks and some older folks, and people who were in high school when certain things happened, and of course people then who read about them when they were still teaching history in school, I guess. So it was very, very interesting, and laid out. You can as much time as you want to spend is as much time you'll stay at a certain display. But if you get up to Boston, well worth the visit, as well as some of the other parts of historic Boston.
Well, that actually is a neat thing. I've only been to one presidential library or that they have, and that was Jerry Ford Museum. Actually, it wasn't library for him. It was at the University of Michigan, but the museum is in Grand Rapids.
Yep, that's in his hometown.
Yeah, and I actually would be very interested in going to the presidential libraries, museums, and just seeing that history. It's particularly interesting with Jerry Ford's because they had the stairway that was used when they lifted the last people out of Saigon.
No kidding. They brought
one of the ladder off of the helicopter.
Off of the they basically
at the
had
embassy.
that there, and they also had the doors in the Watergate Hotel and some things. When I was a kid, I was pretty young then, but I can remember some of those things in the news. And of course, with Watergate, you remember the hearings that consumed 1974.
Whoa, great. Well, good history. Welcome aboard. History in the making in Harrisburg these days as it's budget time and multi-billion-dollar pension crisis continues in terms of unfunded pensions for the future. And we have in the studio State Representative Fred Keller, lives in the Kramer area. He is a Republican, 85th District, and covers portions of Snyder and Union counties. And welcome back, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And I guess I like to always start the program. We talked about a little bit of history and things in presidential politics, but I think the thing people most expect from their elected officials is the fact that they, what they say they're going to do when they're running for office, they then follow through, and that's how they behave when they're in office. And that's one thing that I'm really proud of for myself, particularly. I told people this is what I'm about, this is what I believe. When I go to Harrisburg, this is how I'm going to behave, and we've done that, and in a lot of cases, I think that we've done some things in Harrisburg that have made things better. More people are working now than they were 3 years ago. A lot of things are happening, and it's just a lot of work. And I think we need to get beyond the rhetoric on both sides and really get down to dealing with the issues.
What if times change and whatever sort of one of your platforms or something needs to be revisited?
One of the platforms, again, there's certain things, as I've told people in the past, that I believe in, and that if those decisions come before me, that's how I'll behave. On anything else, and that is basically, life, marriage, and gun owner rights. Anything else is a decision that we'll have to debate, we'll discuss, and we'll make the decisions on that.
Now there are Let's see. There's nothing pending in Harrisburg that relates to gun ownership. But boy, we've had a shooting a day at schools in the past couple months or so. Is there any reasonable gun law change? We know society has to change. We know mental health laws could afford revision. But is there anything that relates to firearms that we could revise that would potentially prevent that?
Well, again, any loss of life is tragic. I'll first say that is tragic, no matter how somebody loses their life. We've had people. We had one here in incident a few months ago, where people got stabbed at school. So there's a lot of things. I think we need to look at the underlying issues. As a broader sense of what's causing people to lash out. One thing I will say, now, I do actually have a bill, and it actually came out of this House Finance Committee. That's an encouragement for people to purchase gun safes and so forth by offering a not charging sales tax on it. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if it encourages it, and actually some discussion now that I was able to get that out of the Finance Committee, I'll talk to DC and say, doesn't impair gun ownership, doesn't do anything. But what about giving somebody a tax credit if they buy a gun safe? I mean, I look at those kind of things as an investment in storing your firearms safely. Not saying you have to purchase it, you have to do anything. It simply says if you do it, we're going to incentivize that kind of behavior.
All right, and that wouldn't necessarily have an impact on this discussion. Is there any other change in gun laws? And there again, there's nothing pending, and you're not advocating for it. I'm just asking because really it's been a brought-up issue in the sort of social media lately, if nowhere else. This idea that there's a shooting a day, and it's become more common.
Well, again, I guess I'm going to go back to the same thing that I said before. There are some legislation around Harrisburg, different things on guns. There's one on preemption as far as not allowing local governments and municipalities to enact stricter gun laws, that the state has the right to enact the laws that govern firearms in the Commonwealth. And, based on our Constitution, Section 21, that is a right that the people have determined is the right of the state, the right of the people to, the state has the authority to regulate or to make sure nobody diminishes gun owner rights. I guess that's the right way to say it. And our Constitution, the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, guarantee our right to keep and bear arms in defense of ourselves or the state. And that's actually Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. A lot of people mix gun ownership with hunting, and that's not why we have the Second Amendment, and that's not why we have Section 21 of the Constitution. Again, I think we need to look at the behaviors that are happening that are causing people to lash out and do the things that they're doing. And, we do, last, I think might have been a couple times ago, I was on the radio, and we were talking about this, and I handed you the stuff from the state police. And I think in that you were quite surprised that we check for as many things as we do. So in looking at that, I think as society we need to take a good hard look at what's causing that kind of behavior. Whether you're harming somebody with a gun, with a knife. Actually, I was to the one school, and I got a thing on bullying. It was actually a pretty good definition, and I think we need to probably look at it. Here's what it is. It says bullying is when someone repeatedly or on purpose says or does mean or hurtful things to another person who has a hard time defending himself or herself, a power imbalance. I would also add to that somebody that repeats things that are false or that they have not verified as being true, to try and gain an opinion or something. But I think we really need to look at what's happening and why people are doing these things.
All right.
Well, if you look at the mental health issue, but if you look at, as you talked about, a little bit of a societal issue, it seems, unfortunately, the people with guns who are going into schools end up killing themselves. The incident in Franklin Regional High School, the Pittsburgh school, with the knife, again shows that anybody who wants to do harm can do some harm, and unfortunately, it was amazing how many people he harmed with a knife, meaning that the number of students that were stabbed. of course, he lived, and then you can find out what the reasons. But if you look at a real peculiar case was in Santa Barbara, where the parents were trying to circumvent what was going on for a number of months, and particularly that day, and they couldn't make it happen. They couldn't stop it. And is that part of the mental health laws, the medical HIPAA laws, the privacy laws, and how do you overcome that and possibly prevent these tragedies? But if you go back, unfortunately, these tragedies have been going on a lot longer. However, they're just more prevalent now with, and of course, the media coverage. Are there copycat scenarios going on?
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We have State House member Fred Keller here. If you have a comment about the conversation we just had, which I launched into a little bit about, is there anything pending in Harrisburg that relates to shootings, you're welcome to call in about that. But we're going to launch into talking about the state pension and paycheck protection, two issues that really are big issues around Harrisburg. So we're going to talk about that, and you're welcome to listen and then call in. The Groninger Insurance toll-free line is 1-800-795-9565. Lenape Solar email in basket has notes in it that were sent to onthemark@WKOK.com, and the Sunbury Motor Company is our main sponsor.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
He was one of the truly outstanding second basemen of his era, a guy that helped the Yankees win championships. Willie Randolph joins us today on the Steve Jones Show, 3 to 5, News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Appropriate bumper music on Friday the 13th. Thank you, Kevin Herr. Engineer Fred Keller is with us. I always call it the $30 billion pension crisis. I've been informed that that's an antiquated reference. It's no longer $30 billion. How big is the pension crisis, cumulatively speaking? And tell us about this hybrid bill that may help matters.
Well, actually, if you look at the pension crisis and what caused, well, first off, how big it is. The estimates are between somewhere around $50 billion to $60 billion. And that's if you believe the actuaries that we're going to get a 7.5% rate of return from now for the next 30 years. Under the system we have, there's a thought that maybe the rate should be lowered for the kind of defined benefit that we offer to the current employees and the people that are retired, that return should probably be somewhere 3.5 to 4, which would then make that unfunded liability closer to like $90 billion. And I'm just using rough numbers, so, but in looking at that, it is a serious problem because there are a lot of things that are going around and rumors that are simply not true. The first thing is, and I don't blame the people that have the questions, because there's organizations, again, that are trying to protect their turf, and in doing that they're not being or getting all the facts out. And the first thing is that nobody that is currently retired will have an impact on their pension. We're not looking at changing a pension check that anybody is currently receiving. Secondly, there was a bill that looked at future benefits for current employees. We're not even discussing that bill now. We are simply looking at anybody that is hired in the future and what their accrual rate of benefits would be. So I guess that's the most important.
So that's all that's on the table is the future employees.
Future employees.
Not even hired yet.
Not even hired.
That's it.
Not hired. Even hired they'd have to be hired after the effective date of the legislation, which we're looking to be 2015 or 2016. Okay, and I would think that the people that are currently in the system would be welcoming us to look at this, because if we don't, every day we put this off, we put their pension in more danger. So, you know, when you have people that are currently in the system saying, let Act 120 work and don't do anything else, Act 120, if you understand how that was built, and that was done in 2010, the legislature and Governor Rendell did that, and they looked at it and, you know, made a decision and said this is what we should do, and it puts a collar on there. Now, what that is a mandatory increase, statutory increase in what we were contributing of 4% over what was done in that year. It didn't take into account what the actuarial liability was. So under Act 120, we are still underfunding pensions today. We're following the law, which is what everybody wants us to do, let Act 120 work.
You wouldn't have voted for that?
Act 120? I would have advocated, and again, I'm not going to criticize anybody that made a decision on that bill, because that was a different point in time, and it was a matter of what could we get done, and they looked at that and it said it shared some risk and it did some things for future hires. As we're going through this, we're 4 years beyond that, and we need to look at it and look at something that we believe will create us a sustainable plan for the future. So again, I'm not going to criticize a decision that somebody made in 2010. And when I talk about history and things that are done to cause the problem, I don't do it to place blame on anybody. Okay, what you do is you have to understand what caused the issue if you want to really fairly take a look at how you fix it. It's to put the issue on the table and discuss it. It's not to tear anybody or criticize anybody, or you know, it's to put it on the table and discuss it. And when you look at what caused our pension system problem, we had a change in the multiplier in 2001, and it was made retroactive for current employees. We then, to be fair to people that were retired, did a cost of living adjustment, and it was based upon what date you retired. So some people that retired, you know, before 1980 got like a 20% increase in their retirement checks, and so those things were done. Then we had two downturns in the market. We have a system where people can bump up their earnings at the end of their closer to retirement and get a bigger benefit. And
is that the last 3 years they can do that?
It's based on the highest 3 year salary. And I won't mention a name, but there was a person that was working in a local school district earning $101,000 a year. The person got a job down in Coatesville earning $165,000 a year. Okay, the employer or the employee never had an opportunity. You know, if he works there 3 years, never had an opportunity to make the contributions to support that pension. So that's the construction of the system. And I don't fault the person that did it. He played by the rules, but it's time to change how we manage our pensions. That's it. And the other thing is the increases that far outpace the rate of inflation. And that's happening across the Commonwealth in our school districts. And Philadelphia's probably in the last 12 years about $1 billion over the rate of inflation in salary increases. Now, when you have salary increases like that, you're going to have pension increased costs also above the rate of inflation. So those are all the things that caused it. So how do you fix that? There's been a lot of things out there. The governor had a bill out there that did that. Now, his dealt with future accrual of current employees. And, there was a bunch of, again, people that didn't want to see any change, torpedoed that one. So we went on to a straight defined contribution, which I believe would fix the thing altogether. You earn your pension benefit as you're paid. We contribute the 4%, and you have control over your investments within a certain portfolio governed by IRS code and everything else, and you're allowed to invest your money, and you go ahead and do that.
So more of a 401k, Roth, more of your personal setup, meaning government gets out of the way of how you want to handle your personal.
Right. We give you the benefit by making the contribution, with your, as you're paid or annually, we make your payments. But then you take that decision on whether to fund a system or not out of the hands of politicians. we say we have a balanced budget in Pennsylvania. We have to balance the budget. But when we don't make the actuarial payment on the pension system, do you really have a balanced budget? Okay. Because you're underfunding something. You know, so one could make that argument. And being fair with the whole thing, you know, how do we do that? You know, Mike Tobash put a plan out here. There's a couple tweaks I would like to...
Is that what you brought with you?
Well, yeah, that's, you know, just sort of... I knew I'd be on the camera, but there's the Tobash amendment.
For folks who can't see it, it looks like a
300 and some pages.
One volume of an encyclopedia. I mean, a full-size piece of paper, about 300 pages.
Yeah, it's printed front and back.
Oh, thank heaven.
Well, that's how I print things.
Good for you.
But the generous packages, retirement packages that have been put out for the state is now the... it's going to be tough. I mean, there's a tsunami on this pension coming, and it's a crisis that's going to hamstring what school districts and what state governments could be able to do.
Well, and actually, quite frankly, what the taxpayers can afford. And you know, I look at something, and it's not just the legislature or the governor or people in government saying we need to do this. I subscribe to the Fitch ratings, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's. And, you know, we took a downgrading in our bond rating a year ago, and they're all saying that if we don't address this and we don't get something in place that shows meaningful improvements of something we can sustain, they may downgrade our credit rating again. And what that means, not just for the Commonwealth when we go to borrow money on a general obligation bond or, you know, what have you, that we will pay higher interest. Any entity that gets money from the general fund, meaning your school districts, your counties, your municipalities, will also pay more for their money. So we have school districts that are looking at building new schools, and if the Commonwealth's credit rating is downgraded, they could end up paying more money on the bonds they issue to build their schools. So it's important that we address this, because that's going to come right back to property tax.
It's coming up, or is this going to pass?
The Tobash bill,
hybrid plan we talked about?
It's the hybrid plan. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it'll be that or something else, but we definitely, at the very least, if we don't do this, we need to make the actuarial payment.
All right. State Representative Fred Keller with us, 85th District from Kramer, Pennsylvania. Join the folks watching us on the webcam. Improved lighting in the studio, so we thank Kevin for that. Groninger Insurance is available at groningerinsurance.com. Lenape Solar at lenapesolar.com. Sunbury Motor Company at sunburymotor.com. This is News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. WKOK News Time, it's 9 o'clock.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. Shiite Muslims going to Friday prayers in Baghdad heard some fighting words from their Ayatollah. He told them to take up arms against the Sunnis who've overrun towns north of the capital. His words got the desired response. The Iraqi army is offering little resistance as Sunni insurgents advance toward Baghdad. CBS's Holly Williams has the latest from Erbil.
Islamic militants captured 2 more towns in northern Iraq overnight. And as we've seen across this region, as the militants have moved across it at lightning speed, Iraq's security forces abandoned their post as the Islamic extremists overran the towns of Sadia and Jalala.
While President Obama weighs options to help the Iraqi government, Iran hinted it might intervene on the side of its fellow Shiites. Almost 2 weeks after his release by the Taliban, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl is back in the United States. CBS's Manuel Bojorquez tells us what's in store for Bergdahl at the Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio.
The priority during these first few hours will be to continue Sergeant Bergdahl's medical and psychological treatments. Eventually, he will be reunited with his family here, but only when doctors believe he is ready.
And down the road, the Army will have to decide if Bergdahl should be punished for leaving his unit. Jeffrey Korn is a former Army lawyer.
I think the real question for the commander is going to be, has he suffered enough? And should we just let him move along? And I think medical retirement would be the logical course of action there.
We know it can take a long time to see a doctor at the VA, but long waits aren't confined to veterans hospitals. Live to CBS News correspondent Barry Bagnatto.
Need a heart doctor in Denver? 1 month. An OBGYN in Portland, Oregon. A 35-day delay, according to a survey by Merritt Hawkins, a physician placement service. It finds the longest wait times are in Boston, where it takes 66 days to see a family doctor and 72 for a date with a dermatologist. The demand for doctors is outstripping the supply, the report says, suggesting it won't be so easy funneling VA patients into the private system as Congress wants to do. Frank?
Well, the P.F. Chang Chinese restaurant chain is confirming a data breach that exposed customers' credit and debit cards. The company doesn't know how many cards were compromised or which restaurants were affected. Well, it seems that everything's bigger in Texas, even the hailstone. Hail the size of softballs did a lot of damage to buildings and cars and trucks in Abilene. A tornado separated a home from its foundation near Bertram, Texas. The children's book author who created mischief-seeking Spot the Dog has died. Eric Hill was 86. Hill's books have sold more than 60 million copies. He came up with the radical idea of using paper flaps to hide parts of illustrations. Publishers were cool to it, but readers loved it. S&P futures are down 2 points. This is CBS News.
The oil change. A small job, but one you take pride in doing yourself. So when you do, go to Advance Auto Parts. This month, get 5 quarts of Pennzoil conventional motor oil and a Purelator classic oil filter for only $22.99. Plus, enter to win free gas for a year. One winner daily. Advance Auto Parts. Let's get you back to the garage.
No purchase necessary for sweepstakes. See store for details.
It's time for Commercial Real Estate Market Insights with Kevin Thorpe, Chief Economist at Cassidy Turley.
The commercial real estate industry has a supply problem. Looking at warehouse vacancy rates today, the industry is massively underbuilding in about 2/3 of the country. As a real estate investor, expect warehouse rents to rise significantly this year. Count on it.
To learn more about Cassidy Turley, visit CassidyTurley.com/research, challenging the conventional in commercial real estate services. Cassidy Turley.
The man in charge of the Veterans Administration is defending the people who work there. CBS's Jim Krasula has the story.
A feisty acting VA Secretary Sloan Gibson vowed to address systematic problems within the agency, issues he feels are not the fault of employees.
My commitment is that we're going to deal with those problems, but I'm not going to see people sit there and say that we got 350,000 people that aren't worth a crap. It's wrong.
Gibson visited the VA hospital in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The facility near the Army's Fort Bragg has one of the highest waiting times for veterans seeking primary care treatment. Jim Krasula, CBS News.
Oh, there was some real breaking news overnight at CNN headquarters in Atlanta. A Mercedes-Benz crashed into the building lobby at around 4 in the morning, knocking out a 10 by 15-foot section of plate glass. A few hours later, workers were still sweeping up the pieces. No one was hurt. Police charged the driver with DUI and reckless driving. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
I'm here to tell you about an amazing new acne treatment that even Proactive says is better than Proactive. It's called Proactive Plus. It's totally new, totally advanced. Proactive Plus is their best, most effective solution ever from the #1 name in acne care. If your goal is a flawless complexion, call 1-800-694-9676, 1-800-694-9676. That number once again is 1-800-694-9676.
Staples Copy and Print knows you need to promote your business.
Outdoor banners.
Detailing your one-of-a-kind product offering.
Trifold, full-color, double-sided brochures.
As you grow your business.
Business cards, postcards, car magnets.
And your customer base.
Design services, presentations, shipping.
So you go to the one place that has it all and prints it right.
Staples.
Right now, custom banners and posters start at just $6.49. Offer valid on pickup or delivery ends 6/29. Details in-store or online at staples.com/springcopy. Staples. Make more happen.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Ben Reichley.
Greetings and welcome back to the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. Our sponsors, Groninger Insurance Agency, sponsors our toll-free line. It is 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. Groninger Insurance Agency. Now, always asking that question, do you know if your insurance is at the right price? Let them give you a second opinion. If you already have an insurance provider, they'll help you save money. It's just that simple. They give you a second opinion. If they can't save you money, they'll let you know that you should stick with whomever you're with, or just come to Groninger and you see even more smiles than you do at other places. Groninger Insurance.